So I'm really intrigued to kind of unpack some of these excerpts and really see like what are the core ideas here that we can glean from this material.
Well, it's interesting because he kind of brings together all these different things. You've got the communication, you've got the goal setting, and then you've got the financial strategies.
Yeah.
And he kind of weaves it all together as part of this bigger picture, I think.
Okay, so let's unpack that bigger picture. What are some of the things that really jumped out at you as you were going through this material? What are some of the core ideas here?
Well, one of the things that he talks about is the four ifs that make life worthwhile.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
The four ifs.
The four ifs. And it's almost like a framework, if you will, for his philosophy.
Okay.
And he starts with if you learn. And he was all about, continuous learning. It wasn't just, about school. It was about having this curiosity, this drive to seek out knowledge and to always be learning, even if that means making mistakes along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of like the whole idea of like you can read a book, but are you actually applying what you've learned? And that kind of leads into his next if, right? If you try.
Exactly. It's that taking action, right? It's not enough to just be a sponge. You have to actually get in the game and actually do something with that information.
Yeah.
Whether it's starting that side hustle or
Right.
finally, tackling that financial plan that you've been putting off.
But then how do you keep going when things get tough? Because I think, we've all had those moments where we start something with great enthusiasm and then it just kind of fizzles out.
That's where the third if comes in, which is if you stay. You've got to have that stick-with-itness, that grit.
Mm-hmm.
He saw so many people start and stop and never really finish anything, and he believed that finishing what you start is a key to experiencing true satisfaction.
Okay, so we've got learn, try, stay.
Try care.
And care.
And care. So what is that fourth if all about?
That's about bringing your whole self to what you're doing. It's about bringing the emotion, bringing the effort. He said that truly caring about what you do is what fuels that drive and ultimately leads to those amazing results. I mean, think about it. If you're passionate about something, you're way more likely to go the extra mile to put in the work than if you're just doing something out of obligation.
Right, right.
So if you care,
Yeah.
it makes all the difference.
And it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see how these four ifs kind of act like this foundation.
Yeah, for everything else. But you mentioned communication
Yes.
as being something that's really crucial for Jim Rohn.
Yeah, he believed that even financial success, it starts with having something good to say.
Oh.
Now, he doesn't mean like being a smooth talker. He means like having substance.
Oh,
You know, like every conversation you have is kind of like a mini presentation.
Right.
Are you prepared? Do you have something valuable to contribute?
Man, I'm already feeling like I need to up my game.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he also talks about saying it, well, he called it conscious repetition.
Conscious repetition. Okay.
So basically, it's about deliberate practice to improve your communication.
Okay.
So whether that's through writing or public speaking or even just casual conversation,
Yeah.
it's about honing that skill, just like any other skill.
Right.
You don't just become a great athlete overnight. You have to practice.
Right. You're going to practice.
You got to practice your communication.
But what about those times when you think you're being clear and the other person just isn't getting it?
That's where reading the effect comes in.
Okay.
He was really big on being perceptive,
Mm-hmm.
like paying attention to the other person's reactions,
Right.
both verbal and nonverbal. Don't just assume someone's interested because they're being polite.
Yeah.
Mm. Look for that genuine engagement.
Right. Right.
And then his final point on communication is all about intensity.
Intensity.
He believed that to truly make an impact with your words, you need to infuse them with genuine emotion.
He had that great analogy about words being like a straight pin.
Yes.
That they can get the job done, but they're infinitely more powerful when they're driven by the force of like an iron bar representing emotion.
Exactly. So it's not just logic and information. It's about tapping into that emotional core of your message.
Okay, so we've got these 4 communication principles: having something good to say, saying it well, reading the effect, and then bringing intensity.
Yes.
Now, what comes next?
Well, then he talks about making a presentation.
Making a presentation.
But he's quick to point out that this isn't just about, getting up on a stage.
Right.
It's any interaction
Yeah.
where you're trying to connect with someone or convey an idea.
So it could be as simple as a conversation with your kid.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes it feels like I'm giving a presentation just to get my kids to eat their vegetables.
Right. I mean, we're always making presentations in a way.
Yeah.
And he breaks this presentation process down into 2 parts: identification and re-identification.
Okay, I've always struggled with like making a good first impression.
Okay.
how does this identification idea help with that, like, initial awkwardness?
It's all about building rapport. It's about finding those me too moments,
Okay.
right? Those points of common ground
Yeah, yeah.
that break down those barriers. And he even had, he shared an anecdote about, those introductions where someone's just listing off their credentials and accomplishments and everyone's just kind of like, so what? And he said, I learned to make it more personal. Like,
Yeah.
inject some humor. Show your human side so people don't tune you out.
So it's not about trying to impress.
Mhm.
It's about trying to connect.
Connect, exactly.
Okay, and then re-identification, what's that all about?
Well, that's about maintaining those connections over time.
Okay.
And that's where, things like staying in touch, showing genuine interest, realizing that people change, perspectives evolve. You can't just assume you know everything about someone, even if you've known them for years.
It's like you're constantly rediscovering each other,
Yeah,
which takes effort.
it does.
I mean, speaking of effort, one of Jim Rohn's most famous quotes is, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. It almost feels counterintuitive in like our work-obsessed culture
Right.
to actually say like, no, you are your most valuable asset.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the more you invest in yourself, the more valuable you become in all areas of your life, not just your career, but your relationships, your health, everything. And that's where his whole ladder of value comes in.
Yes. He talked about how the more valuable you become to the marketplace, the higher you can climb on this ladder, and as a result, command higher income.
Okay.
So it's about constantly investing in your skill set, your knowledge, your abilities.
So one of the things that really struck me about that was his emphasis on learning from experiences.
Yes.
And he talked about not just your own personal experiences, but learning from the successes and failures of others.
He actually credits books like Think and Grow Rich and The
Yeah.
Richest Man in Babylon as being transformative for him.
Yeah.
He was a huge advocate of building a personal library
Mm-hmm.
and really, engaging with the material, not just passively consuming it.
Right, right.
And to solidify that learning, he was a big, big proponent of keeping a journal.
Now, I've tried journaling on and off over the years, and I haven't quite stuck with it.
Okay.
What's his big argument for making it a consistent practice?
Well, he believed that writing things down helps you process information on a much deeper level. Okay.
It helps you solidify those aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
You can go back and revisit them. It's almost like having a conversation with yourself on paper, allowing those thoughts to really crystallize and those insights to emerge.
So I'm seeing this theme here of action, engagement, really digging deep.
Yes.
It's not this passive self-improvement. It's like actively shaping your own growth.
Exactly.
And that kind of leads perfectly into his thoughts on setting goals, which for him, it was all about designing a future you could actually look forward to.
I love that.
I think most people face the future with this mix of excitement and dread,
Yes.
but a well-designed future now, that's something to get excited about.
Absolutely. And he actually had a process for this.
Hmm.
He said, first, you decide what you want and don't hold back. Dream big. Envision those skills you want to master, the income you want to earn, the experiences you crave.
Okay.
And then you write it down. There's power in putting pen to paper, making those goals tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets interesting. He also suggests keeping your old goal lists.
Okay, now, how is that helpful? Is it really productive to, dwell on past goals, especially if they're things you haven't achieved yet?
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but his perspective on this is really fascinating. He believes that keeping those old lists allows you to see how your aspirations have evolved over time, to see how your priorities may have shifted and what you've already accomplished. And then, of course, there's that satisfaction of checking things off as you achieve them.
Okay, so it's not about, clinging to the past, but about using it as, a springboard.
A springboard for future growth.
For future growth, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so he's got this whole goal-setting process.
Yes.
And then, of course, the ultimate goal for a lot of people is achieving financial independence.
Yeah, and he defines financial independence as the ability to live from the income of your own personal resources.
So it's not just about having a lot of money.
No.
It's about having your money work for you.
Exactly.
So that you're not dependent on a job or anyone else for your livelihood.
It's about freedom.
That's a game changer.
It is.
Yeah.
So how do we get there?
Well, he believed that it starts with a major philosophical shift. He contrasted what he called the poor person's philosophy, which is to spend first and invest what's left, with the rich person's philosophy, which is to invest first and then spend what's left.
Mm-hmm. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but what about people who are like living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
How can they possibly find that, 10% to invest?
He acknowledged that it's not always easy, but he said even small, consistent investments can make a big difference over time, and that brings us to his famous 70-30 rule for allocating your income.
Okay, break that down for me because I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with.
So he suggested spending no more than 70% of your income.
Okay.
Then 10% goes to charity, which he believed was crucial for developing a sense of gratitude and abundance.
Yep.
Another 10% to what he called active capital. That's the money you're using for ventures that will generate profit.
And the final 10% to passive capital. So things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, investments that are going to work for you in the long term.
Okay, so it's about balance.
Balance, yes.
Enjoying your life today
Yes.
while also building for your future.
Exactly.
But how does someone with no financial background even know where to start with investing?
Well, he was a big advocate for educating yourself.
Okay.
So understanding the basic principles, seeking guidance from reputable sources, and he really highlighted the power of compound interest.
Yeah.
That idea that when your earnings generate their own earnings.
It's like a snowball effect.
It is, exactly.
The earlier you start, the more time that snowball has to roll and gather momentum.
Right. And he tied this all back to this dynamic between the borrower and the lender.
Mm-hmm.
And he used that biblical principle, the borrower is slave to the lender,
Right.
to illustrate this power dynamic.
Yeah, yeah.
And he really encouraged people to aim for the lender's position,
Okay.
to build that financial foundation where you're the one providing capital, not seeking it.
There's so much to think about here. It's not just about the numbers. It's about a whole mindset shift when it comes to money.
It is. It is.
Did Ron ever talk about his own financial struggles?
He did. And, he lost his entire fortune at one point.
Yeah, 2 years, I think, right?
It's amazing. And while the specific details of his financial downfall aren't really outlined in the material we have, what's clear is that he considered it one of the best things that ever happened to him.
Okay, that seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
How could losing everything be a good thing?
Well, he realized that his true value wasn't tied to his money.
Mm.
It was tied to his skills and his knowledge that allowed him to earn that money in the first place.
He had that great line, it's not what you get that makes you valuable, it's what you become.
Exactly.
And so that allowed him to rebuild his fortune and, arguably become even more successful.
Right.
He wasn't afraid to take risks and try new things.
He wasn't afraid to fail.
And he wasn't afraid to fail.
Right. He saw it as a learning opportunity.
Speaking of learning, I'd love to hear more about that story he told about the Girl Scouts selling cookies.
Ah, yes.
It really stood out to me.
That's a great story.
I've read the story, but I would love for you to kind of break down why it's so insightful.
Okay, yeah.
Why is this such a great example of Jim Rohn's communication principles in action?
So he starts by, setting the scene. He wants to support this Girl Scout, right? But he doesn't have any cash on him.
Oh, no.
And instead of just brushing her off,
No.
he uses it as a Me Too moment. He talks about how embarrassing it is to get caught without cash.
Hmm.
And then he says to her, I've got a deal for you.
Oh.
He's like, if you come back tomorrow,
Yeah.
I'll buy 7 boxes.
Wow.
And so she comes back the next day,
Mm-hmm.
and he makes good on his promise.
Wow, that's great.
But it's not just about buying cookies.
Right.
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 He uses this as an opportunity to talk about this broader lesson about being prepared. He's like, being prepared financially is just as important as being prepared
Yeah.
in any other area of life.
It's so true.
Right. And he says, always have some cash on hand. It's like having an umbrella in the trunk of your car.
Yeah.
You never know when you're going to need it.
That's such a great analogy.
It is.
Yeah.
And so it's not just a cute story.
Right.
It's this masterclass
Yeah.
in communication
Yeah.
and using storytelling to connect with people on an emotional level and leave them with a lasting message.
It's interesting how he connected this financial success with this idea of a well-designed future.
Mm-hmm.
He believed that.
Yeah. He believed that having those clear, compelling goals could actually transform your whole outlook from, facing the future with apprehension to anticipation.
Oh, I love that.
Right. Going from dread to actually looking forward
Yeah.
to what's to come.
Yeah, I think we've all felt that dread,
Exactly.
that uncertainty of what's ahead.
Yeah.
But how do you actually go about designing a future
Okay.
that you can get excited about? It's deceptively simple. His process. He said, first, decide what you truly want.
Okay.
And don't hold back. Dream big.
Mm.
Really envision those skills you want to master, the income you desire, the experiences you crave.
Okay, so let those dreams run wild.
Exactly.
Then what?
Then you capture it by writing it down. There's power in putting pen to paper.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets even more interesting. He was adamant about keeping those old lists.
Okay, I'm going to push back on this again.
Okay.
Isn't that just setting yourself up for disappointment, looking back at all the things you haven't achieved?
He argued that it's incredibly motivating.
Okay.
It allows you to see how far you've come, how your goals have evolved, and what you've already accomplished. You know, it's a tangible reminder of your progress.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
It's not about dwelling on the past,
No.
but about using it as like a benchmark for future growth.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then, of course, the ultimate satisfaction comes from checking things off those lists.
That's true. That's true.
Right, as you achieve them. Yeah. So, he didn't just talk about financial goals. He was a big proponent of personal development in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He saw it as this continuous journey of becoming a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
He emphasized the importance of learning from both your own experiences
Right?
and from the successes and failures of others.
Yeah. I love that he specifically mentioned books like Think and Grow Rich and The Richest Man in Babylon as being instrumental in his own transformation.
Yeah, he was all about building that personal library
Mm-hmm.
and really engaging with that material, not just passively consuming it.
Right, right. And then to kind of solidify this learning, he was also a big advocate for keeping a journal.
Yes.
Now, I'll admit I've dabbled in journaling, but I haven't quite cracked the code.
Okay.
What's his big argument for making this like a consistent practice?
He saw it as a way to capture those insights,
Okay.
to track your progress,
Mm-hmm.
and to really make those aha moments stick.
Mm.
It's like you said, it's like having that conversation with yourself on paper,
Mm.
allowing those thoughts to crystallize and those insights to emerge.
Now, aside from communication and personal development, what other kind of key insights can we get from Jim Rohn's work?
Well, leadership was another area that he spoke very passionately about. And he had this great analogy.
Okay.
He compared great leaders to fishermen
Okay.
who teach their followers how to fish for people.
Oh, instead of just handing them a fish.
Exactly.
I love that analogy.
It's about empowerment, isn't it? Helping people develop the skills and the mindset they need to succeed on their own, rather than creating dependency.
Yeah, he even pointed out that, Jesus considered by many to be like the ultimate leader.
Right.
He used this approach, he spoke to people in a language they understood, using stories and metaphors to convey these complex ideas.
Meeting people where they are and guiding them toward growth.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got communication, personal development, leadership.
Mm.
It's a pretty comprehensive philosophy.
It really is.
Yeah.
And one of the things that makes Jim Rohn so compelling is that he wasn't just some ivory tower guru. He was open about his own struggles,
Right.
including his financial downfall.
Yeah, I know we touched on this earlier,
Yeah.
but I'd love to kind of dig a little deeper into that part of his story.
Okay.
What happened? How did he go from millionaire to broke in 2 years?
So the specific details aren't really outlined in the material that we have.
Okay.
What is clear is that he saw it as a crucible, a test of his character and his principles.
Yeah, he famously said it was one of the best things that ever happened to him.
Right. Which is hard to grasp
It is.
when you think about losing everything you've worked for.
Yeah.
But he realized that the true value wasn't in the money itself. It was in the skills and the knowledge that he developed to earn it.
Right.
Those are things that no one can take away from you.
There's a real resilience there, a
Absolutely.
refusal to be defined by setbacks.
Mm.
Instead, he used that experience to kind of refine his philosophy and come back even stronger.
And his message is all about empowering individuals, reminding them that they have the power to shape their own destiny.
Yeah, he really drove that point home with his series of why not questions.
Yes.
Really challenging people to step outside of their comfort zones and embrace their potential.
Like, why not see how many books you can read?
Yeah.
Why not see how valuable you can become?
Mm.
Why not see how much you can earn and how much you can share?
He wanted people to realize that their potential is limitless.
It is.
And then, of course, there's that ultimate why not question. Why not you?
It's such a powerful question, isn't it?
It is. It's like a call to action.
Yeah.
It's an invitation to stop procrastinating and start creating the life you desire.
To step into your power.
Step into your power, yeah. And he didn't stop there. He
Right.
followed it up with, why not now?
Absolutely.
So it's like a double whammy.
It is. It's like a call to action.
It's a call to action.
To stop waiting for permission or the perfect circumstances and start taking ownership of your life.
So how do you actually go about making that shift
Okay.
from, feeling stuck to feeling empowered?
Well, he believed it starts with developing the right mindset. He was very clear that our thoughts shape our reality.
Right.
And he stressed surrounding yourself with positive influences, whether that's through books, people, or even the environments you choose. Yeah, that famous saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, so choose your company wisely.
Absolutely.
But what about when you're bombarded with, negative news?
Yeah.
It feels like the world is falling apart. How do you stay positive in those moments?
He's a big advocate for affirmations.
Okay.
Consciously repeating positive statements to yourself.
Right.
To reprogram your subconscious mind.
So it sounds a little woo-woo, but I've heard that it can be surprisingly effective.
It is.
Is it really about, tricking your brain into believing something?
I think it's more about creating those new neural pathways, training your brain to focus on the positive rather than defaulting to negativity.
Right.
And it goes hand in hand with practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
Appreciating the good things in your life, even the small things, helps shift your focus away from that negativity and scarcity.
It's about recognizing and appreciating what you already have.
Yes.
While still striving for more.
Exactly.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yes.
But he didn't just focus on, the mental side of things.
No.
He also talked about the importance of physical well-being.
Absolutely. He believed that a healthy body and a healthy mind go hand in hand.
Right.
He emphasized the importance of regular exercise, proper nutrition, getting enough sleep.
It's all connected.
It is.
You can't really expect to have, peak mental performance if you're neglecting your physical health.
Exactly. And he also stressed the importance of managing stress effectively.
Yeah.
He saw chronic stress as a major obstacle to success.
Right.
In all areas of life.
And I think we all know that feeling of being so stressed that we can't think straight.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone make good decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what were some of his strategies for dealing with stress?
He advocated for things like meditation, deep breathing exercises, spending time in nature, finding ways to quiet the mind and restore that inner peace.
So it's about creating this holistic sense of well-being, taking care of yourself on all levels, physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Exactly. And he didn't shy away from addressing procrastination either.
Oh, procrastination.
Which he saw as a major thief of time and potential.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. Putting things off until the last minute.
Yeah.
Feeling overwhelmed by that looming deadline.
So what were some of his strategies for tackling procrastination?
Well, he was a big believer in breaking down those large, overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay.
He found that made things seem less daunting and easier to get started on.
It's like that saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also recommended setting deadlines for yourself, even if they're self-imposed.
Yeah.
Having that external pressure, even if it's coming from yourself, can really create a sense of urgency.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of needing that external pressure sometimes.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah.
And he also talked about identifying your prime time.
Oh, okay.
That time of day when you're most productive and focused.
Right.
And he said, schedule your most important tasks for those hours.
Okay.
To really maximize your efficiency.
So work with your energy.
Yes, work with your natural energy patterns.
Yeah, instead of against them.
Exactly.
What about distractions?
Yes.
Because in today's world, it feels like we're constantly bombarded with notifications.
It's so true.
And interruptions.
Yeah, and he was very clear about eliminating those distractions, whether that's turning off notifications, creating a dedicated workspace, or even just communicating to those around you, hey, I need some uninterrupted time.
So it's about setting boundaries.
Setting boundaries, yes.
Protecting your time.
And your focus.
And your focus.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, he also emphasized the importance of rewarding yourself for completing tasks. Sometimes, we get so focused on the next thing on the to-do list.
Yeah, you got to celebrate those wins.
Yeah, you forget to celebrate those wins.
Yeah.
So it's about creating that positive reinforcement.
It is.
You're more likely to stick with your goals.
Yes.
And, overcome that procrastination in the future.
Exactly. And when you think about it, so much of what Jim Rohn talked about really boils down to mindset.
Yeah.
It's about seeing those challenges as opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
setbacks as learning experiences,
Right.
and yourself as capable of achieving anything you set your mind to.
It really is. And he challenged the traditional definition of success.
Yes.
He didn't see it as a destination,
Yeah.
but as this continuous journey of growth and improvement.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah. And he famously said, "Success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying basic fundamentals."
It's such a powerful quote.
It's so true. It's about those small, consistent actions
Yes.
done over and over again
Compounded over time.
that create those extraordinary results.
Exactly. And he believed that success is something you attract by becoming the kind of person who's worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about developing the right habits, the right mindset, the right skills.
And it's not about being perfect.
No.
It's about making progress.
It's about progress, not perfection.
And always striving to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday.
Continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement, yeah.
Right.
But it's not a solitary pursuit, is it?
No.
He also talked about the importance of relationships and contribution.
Absolutely. He believed that true success involves making a positive impact on the world
Yeah.
and leaving a legacy that extends beyond your own lifetime.
Yeah, and he talked a lot about the importance of, surrounding yourself with the right people. Those who support you, those who inspire you.
Your tribe.
Your tribe, yeah. And he also stressed the importance of giving back.
Yes.
Using your success to make a difference in the lives of others.
He saw true wealth as being measured not just by financial abundance, but by the positive impact you have on the world.
You know what really resonates with me is his message of hope and possibility.
Yeah.
He believed that it's never too late
It's never too late.
to start making positive changes in your life.
And he used his own story as proof.
Right. He was 25
25.
when he met his mentor, Earl Shove,
Yeah.
and he completely transformed his life
In just 6 years.
by applying these principles.
Imagine that.
And he believed that anyone, regardless of their background, their
Mhm.
circumstances,
Yeah.
has the potential to do the same.
Absolutely. He was all about empowering individuals to take control of their lives and create the future they desire.
Okay, I'd love to shift gears a bit and talk about his advice for building strong relationships. Because even if you achieve all the success in the world, it's kind of meaningless if you don't have those meaningful connections with others.
He was very clear that relationships are the foundation of a happy and fulfilling life.
Mm-hmm.
And he emphasized investing time and energy in nurturing those relationships with family, friends, and colleagues.
But sometimes it feels like there's just not enough time in the day for everything.
Right.
How do you prioritize relationships when you're juggling work, family, and all the other demands of life?
I think he believed in being intentional
Okay.
with your time, making a conscious effort to connect with the people who matter most.
Right.
And he talked about being fully present
Yeah.
when you are with loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
putting away your phone,
Mm.
turning off the TV,
Mm.
really listening to what they have to say.
So it's about quality over quantity. Truly connecting
Yes.
in those moments rather than just being physically present,
Right.
but mentally checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And he also emphasized expressing appreciation and gratitude
Absolutely.
to those you care about.
Yeah. He said those simple acts of kindness
Right.
and appreciation can go a long way
Yeah.
in strengthening those bonds
Yeah.
and creating a positive emotional environment.
So it's not just about the grand gestures.
Oh.
It's about those small everyday acts
This is.
of love and appreciation that make a difference.
And he was a big proponent of forgiveness.
Oh, forgiveness.
Yes, he recognized that everyone makes mistakes
Right.
and that holding on to grudges only hurts you in the long run.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that. The
Yeah.
weight of that anger and resentment.
That drags you down.
It drags you down. But forgiveness can be so challenging,
It can be.
especially when you've been deeply hurt.
Yes.
Did he have any practical advice on how to actually let go of those grudges?
Well, he believed that forgiveness is a gift
Okay.
you give to yourself
Mm-hmm.
as much as to the other person.
Right.
It's about releasing yourself from that burden of anger and resentment
Yeah.
so you can move forward.
And he also stressed the importance of, open and honest communication.
Yes.
Which can be tough.
It can.
Sometimes it feels easier to just avoid those difficult conversations.
But he believed that clear communication
Mm-hmm.
is essential
Yeah.
for resolving conflicts,
Right.
building trust,
Yeah.
maintaining those healthy boundaries.
So it's not about avoiding conflict altogether.
No.
It's about learning to navigate it in a healthy way,
Exactly.
which sometimes means having those tough conversations.
It does. And he also talked about finding common ground, focusing on those shared values and goals.
Right.
By emphasizing what unites you,
Yeah.
you can create a stronger foundation for those relationships.
Makes sense. When you focus on what you have in common, it's easier to kind of bridge those differences.
Absolutely. And of course, he acknowledged that we'll inevitably encounter difficult people
Oh, yes.
in our lives.
Those energy vampires.
Right.
They leave you feeling drained and frustrated.
So how do you deal with them?
Yeah. How do you deal with those people?
He had a few strategies.
Okay.
First, he suggested trying to understand the other person's perspective,
Okay.
even if you don't agree with it.
Right.
He believed that empathy can go a long way in diffusing that tension and finding solutions.
But what about when empathy is not enough? What if the other person is just being, like, unreasonable or toxic?
Well, then he recommended setting clear boundaries
Okay.
and communicating your needs assertively.
Right.
It's okay to say no
Yeah.
and to protect your own emotional well-being.
So it's about recognizing that you don't have to tolerate bad behavior.
Right.
You have the right to set those boundaries and
Yes.
protect yourself.
And finally, he said to choose your battles wisely.
Okay.
You don't have to engage in every conflict or argument.
Right.
Sometimes it's best to disengage and walk away.
Okay, I like that.
Conserve your energy.
Sometimes you just got to know when to walk away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about focusing on the things you can control.
Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground already, but there's one more area I'd love to explore.
Okay.
And that is Jim Rohn's thoughts on living a life of purpose and meaning. It's something I think we all crave.
Yeah, we all crave that sense of purpose.
Yeah, but it can be so elusive.
It can be. He believed that everyone has this unique contribution to make
Right.
to the world, and that finding that purpose is essential for true fulfillment.
But how do you find that purpose? It feels like such a big, overwhelming question.
He encouraged people to ask themselves some deep questions, like what are you passionate about?
Okay.
What are your natural talents and abilities?
Right.
What kind of impact do you want to have on the world?
It's about looking inward, isn't it?
Yes.
Reflecting on your values and what truly matters to you.
Exactly.
But what about when you think you've found your purpose, but you're afraid to pursue it? What if you're scared of failure
Yeah.
or what other people are going to think?
He had a lot to say about overcoming fear. He acknowledged that it's a natural human emotion,
Right.
but that it shouldn't control our lives.
Yeah, he had that great line, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek."
Oh, that's so good.
It's about recognizing that often the things that we're most afraid of are the very things that will lead us to our greatest growth
Yeah.
and fulfillment.
And he encouraged people to face their fears head on,
Okay.
to take those small steps outside their comfort zones.
But sometimes those small steps feel like giant leaps.
They do.
Uh,
But he said courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to act despite the fear.
I love that definition of courage.
It's powerful, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And he suggested reframing your perspective on fear.
Okay.
Instead of seeing it as this negative force,
Mm-hmm.
view it as a signal that you're stretching yourself,
Right.
that you're growing.
So it's about recognizing that fear is often a sign that you're on the right track,
Yes,
that you're moving towards something that really matters to you.
absolutely. And he recommended surrounding yourself with supportive people
Yeah.
who believe in you
Yeah.
and encourage you to step outside that comfort zone.
Yeah, I think we all need those cheerleaders in our lives.
They do.
You know, those people who remind us of what we're capable of, even when we doubt ourselves.
Yes. And finally, he always emphasized the importance of taking action.
Yeah.
He said, the best way to overcome fear is to simply do the thing you're afraid of.
Just dive in.
Just dive in.
And he believed that by taking action,
Yes.
you build momentum,
You gain confidence.
you gain confidence.
And it makes it easier to face future challenges.
You know, so much of what we've been talking about hinges on developing good habits. I think we all know that feeling of like wanting to make a change in our lives.
Yeah.
And then our old habits kind of sabotage us.
They creep back in.
Yeah, they creep back in. So how do you actually go about changing those deeply ingrained habits? Because it feels like an uphill battle sometimes.
Well, he recommended starting with small changes,
Okay.
one habit at a time.
Mm-hmm.
He found that trying to overhaul your entire life overnight is a recipe for overwhelm and failure.
Right.
He also suggested identifying your trigger points,
Okay.
with those cues that lead to your current habits, and consciously replacing them with new positive cues.
So it's about understanding the psychology behind your habits.
Yes.
Figuring out what triggers that negative behavior, and then finding a way to disrupt that pattern.
Exactly. And then, of course, he always emphasized tracking your progress.
Right.
And celebrating those successes along the way
Right.
helps keep you motivated.
Yeah, those little mini victories
Yes.
that keep you going.
And he was also a big advocate for patience and persistence.
Oh, patience and persistence.
Yes, building new habits, achieving big goals. It takes time.
It takes time.
It takes effort. There will be setbacks, there will be challenges,
Right.
but he encouraged people to never give up,
Yeah.
to keep striving for their goal.
It's about embracing the journey. Knowing that it's not always going to be easy,
Right.
but trusting that the effort is worth it.
It's about the long game.
The long game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said it's in those moments of challenge
Mhm.
that we actually grow the most.
Okay, I want to shift gears one last time
Okay.
and talk about time management,
Okay. Yeah.
because that's something I think we all struggle with.
We all do. There's never enough time.
There's never enough time in the day.
It feels like it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So Jim Rohn, he was very adamant that time is our most valuable resource,
It is.
and that learning to manage it effectively
Yes.
is essential for achieving our goals.
But how do we actually do it?
Yeah, how do we manage our time
Yeah.
when there are so many demands on it?
Right. Well, he encouraged people to be intentional
Okay.
about how they spend their time and to prioritize those most important tasks.
So making conscious choices,
Yes.
not just letting the day kind of run away from you.
Right. And he recommended creating a schedule and sticking to it as much as possible.
Now, I'm a big fan of lists and schedules,
Okay.
but I also know that life happens
Yes.
and things don't always go according to plan.
So true.
So how did he suggest dealing with those unexpected interruptions and changes?
Well, he believed in being flexible
Okay.
while still maintaining that sense of structure,
Hmm.
and he also recommended breaking down those large tasks
Right.
into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's less overwhelming.
It is. It's less overwhelming to tackle a big project when you break it down into those smaller steps.
And he also emphasized eliminating those distractions.
Oh, okay.
Turning off notifications,
Right.
setting aside dedicated work time,
Right.
or just learning to say no.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
It can be.
It feels like you're letting people down.
But it's about honoring your own commitments
Right.
and recognizing that you can't do everything for everyone.
And he also encouraged people to delegate tasks whenever possible,
Yes.
which I think that's a hard one for a lot of people,
It can be.
especially, for those of us who like to be in control.
Yeah. But he saw delegating as a way to leverage your strengths, to free up your time and energy for those things that truly matter.
And of course, he always emphasized the importance of taking breaks,
Absolutely.
recharging your batteries.
Yes. Scheduling downtime into your day
Right.
to avoid burnout.
Yeah.
Maintain your productivity over the long term.
So it's not about working yourself to exhaustion.
No.
It's about finding that sustainable pace.
Exactly.
Working smarter, not harder.
He believed that rest and rejuvenation are essential for optimal performance.
One thing that really strikes me about Jim Rohn's work is his emphasis on developing a strong work ethic.
Yeah, he believed that hard work is essential for achieving success in any endeavor. He had that great quote, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better."
I love that. It's about recognizing that there are no shortcuts
No,
to success.
it's about putting in the effort,
Yeah.
developing your skills, continually striving to improve.
And by doing that, you gain this sense of satisfaction,
Yes.
self-respect.
You take pride in your work.
You take pride in your work no matter what it is.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And he encouraged people to strive for excellence
Mhm.
in all that they do. Never settle for mediocrity.
But it's not just about working hard.
Right.
It's about working smart.
It is. And he emphasized the importance of being reliable
Mm-hmm.
and accountable.
So showing up on time, meeting deadlines, keeping your promises, those things matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He believed that by consistently demonstrating those qualities, you build trust and credibility with others.
Right. And he also encouraged people to be proactive and
Yeah.
take initiative.
He believed that by going above and beyond
Mm-hmm.
what's expected,
Yeah.
you not only make a greater contribution,
Yeah.
but you also open yourself up to new opportunities for growth and advancement.
So it's about being a problem solver, not a problem creator.
Exactly. And of course, he always emphasized the importance of lifelong learning.
Yeah.
Stay ahead of the curve and remain competitive.
Mhm.
You have to constantly be seeking new knowledge and skills.
It's about having that growth mindset, right?
Yes.
Always being willing to learn and adapt.
He said, read books, attend seminars, take courses. Never stop expanding your knowledge and your skill set.
Now, I know that life isn't always smooth sailing.
Right.
We all face setbacks and challenges along the way.
We do.
What did Jim Rohn have to say about dealing with adversity?
He encouraged people to view those setbacks as opportunities for learning and growth.
Okay.
He had that great quote, "Don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game."
I love that. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that failure is a part of the process.
Yes.
Not the end of the story.
It's a stepping stone.
It's a stepping stone, yeah. And he also emphasized the importance of maintaining a positive attitude.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
By focusing on the solutions rather than the problems, we can more effectively navigate those difficult times.
It's about choosing to see the opportunity in the obstacle. And he also recommended seeking support from others during those challenging times.
Yes, connecting with loved ones, mentors, support groups.
Yeah, sometimes we just need someone to remind us that we're not alone,
We do.
that we have people who care about us and believe in us.
Absolutely. And of course, he always emphasized the importance of never giving up on your dreams.
It's about that never give up spirit.
Yes.
That unwavering belief in yourself and your vision.
He believed that with enough determination and perseverance, you can overcome any obstacle and achieve anything you set your mind to.
Now, I'd love to talk about personal integrity,
Okay.
because I think that's something that's often overlooked in today's world. What did Jim Rohn have to say about living in alignment with your values?
He believed that it was essential for inner peace and happiness. He said, character is the ability to carry out a good resolution long after the excitement of the moment has passed.
So it's about doing the right thing even when no one's watching.
Yes, it's about being true to yourself.
It's about being honest, trustworthy, and fair.
Yeah, in your dealings with others.
And he believed that by living in integrity, you
Yeah.
attract the right people
Yes.
and opportunities into your life.
You become a magnet for good.
You become a magnet for good, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about living in a way that's consistent with your values.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And he also emphasized being true to yourself.
Right.
Living in alignment with your authentic self.
It's about embracing your individuality.
Yes.
And living a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling.
He said,
Yeah.
when you deny your true nature, you create this inner conflict
Right.
and unhappiness.
It's about being true to who you are at your core.
Exactly. And finally, he stressed taking responsibility for your actions and choices.
So it's about owning your mistakes,
Yes.
learning from them, and moving forward.
He said, blame and excuses only keep you stuck.
So it's about taking ownership
Yes.
of your life and your decisions.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose
Yeah.
your thoughts,
Yeah.
your actions, your outcomes.
Now, I know that self-discipline is a key theme in Jim Rohn's work.
Yes. It's a muscle that needs to be
It's a
developed.
muscle, yeah. It's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he believed it's a crucial ingredient for success in all areas of life.
So how do you cultivate self-discipline when it feels like your willpower is constantly being tested?
Well, he encouraged people to start by setting clear goals
Okay.
and creating a plan for achieving them.
So having that roadmap.
Yes. Having that vision makes it easier to stay motivated and disciplined.
It's about having that why.
Yes, that drives you.
That drives
Yeah.
you, yeah. And he also recommended breaking down those large goals
Yes.
into smaller, more manageable steps.
He said, that makes it less overwhelming
Yeah.
and helps you build that momentum.
It's about celebrating those small wins along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also emphasized the importance of creating a supportive environment
Okay.
for yourself.
So surrounding yourself with people who encourage you,
Yes.
eliminating those distractions.
Setting clear boundaries.
That sabotage your efforts.
All that makes it easier to stay focused and disciplined.
It's about setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. And he also recommended finding an accountability partner,
Oh, yeah.
someone who can support you,
Mm.
encourage you to stay on track.
Having someone to share your goals with and who holds you accountable can make a big difference.
They can. And he believed that having someone to share that journey with makes it easier and more enjoyable.
It's about finding your tribe, your support system.
Yes, exactly. And finally, he emphasized the importance of rewarding yourself
Yes.
for your efforts.
That's so important. I think we often forget to acknowledge our own progress
You do.
and celebrate those wins.
He said, by celebrating your successes along the way, You reinforce those positive behaviors
Right.
and make it more likely that you'll stick with your goals.
So it's about creating that positive reinforcement.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about something that was central to Jim Rohn's philosophy: communication skills.
Yes. He believed that effective communication is essential for success in all areas of life.
Absolutely. Whether it's personal relationships, business negotiations, or even just expressing yourself clearly, communication is key. What were some of his key insights on becoming a more effective communicator?
Well, he encouraged people to be clear, concise, and persuasive in their communication.
So, getting your point across without rambling or being vague.
Exactly. And he stressed the importance of active listening, paying attention not just to the words being spoken,
Right.
but to the nonverbal cues
Right.
and the underlying emotions.
It's about really tuning into what the other person is saying,
Yes.
both verbally and nonverbally.
Absolutely. And he recommended practicing those communication skills regularly.
Okay, so it's a skill you can develop, just like any other skill.
Exactly. He said, by consciously working on your ability to speak and write effectively, you can make a greater impact and build stronger relationships.
It's about honing your craft,
Yeah.
becoming a master communicator.
And he also encouraged people to be confident in their communication.
That can be hard, especially if you're naturally shy or introverted.
I think we all have those moments.
Yeah.
But he believed that when you believe in yourself and your message, you're more likely to persuade others.
It's about owning your message.
Yes.
Communicating it with conviction.
And finally, he emphasized the importance of being respectful in your communication.
So even when you disagree with someone,
Yes.
you can still get your message across in a way that's respectful
Right.
and honors the other person's perspective.
He said, respectful communication is essential for building trust and maintaining those healthy relationships.
It's remarkable how much wisdom Jim Rohn packed into his teachings.
It is.
From the 4 ifs that make life worthwhile,
Yes.
to the power of communication, the importance of personal development and goal setting, strategies for financial independence,
Yes.
and even his own story of success and setbacks. It's clear that his work has resonated with people for decades.
Absolutely.
And for good reason. I mean, he offers this practical wisdom that's timeless and applicable to all areas of life.
It's amazing how he was able to distill those complex ideas into simple, actionable steps.
Yeah.
He was a master storyteller.
Yeah.
And he used his own life experiences to illustrate those points in a way that was relatable and inspiring.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with a question that Jim Rohn himself might ask.
Okay.
What's one goal you could set
Okay.
that would challenge you to grow,
Yeah.
to stretch yourself, to become the best version of yourself?
That's a great question.
A goal that would make something of you in the achieving.
It's a question worth pondering.
It is. It is. So we would love to hear your thoughts, your questions, or even your own personal takeaways from this deep dive into the wisdom of Jim Rohn.